Mike Taylor looked at his phone screen and smiled. His latest video had just hit 50,000 views in only 2 hours. At 28 years old, Mike was trying hard to become famous on social media. He made videos that shocked people, hoping to get more followers, and maybe one day make real money from his pranks. "This is it, Dave. This video is going to make me famous," Mike told his roommate who sat on their worn couch, playing a video game. Dave barely looked up. "Yeah, whatever. Just like the last 10 videos were going to make you famous." Mike ignored the comment and kept scrolling through the comments. His latest prank showed him pretending to kick a small dog on a busy street. The dog belonged to his sister and was never in any danger. Mike had practiced the fake kick many times to make it look real without touching the animal. His friend had filmed people's shocked reactions, and those faces of horror and anger were what Mike thought would bring him views. "Look at all these angry comments." Mike laughed, showing his phone to Dave. "These people think I actually kicked the dog. That's how good my acting is." Dave paused his game and glanced at the phone. "Dude, that's messed up. People love dogs. You're going to get a lot of hate for this." "No such thing as bad publicity," Mike said, using his favorite phrase. "Every angry comment is still engagement. The algorithm loves it." Mike continued reading the comments, laughing at the people threatening to report him or saying they would find him. One comment caught his eye from someone claiming to know someone famous who loved dogs and would not be happy about this video. "Listen to this one," Mike said. "My uncle is a famous actor who rescues dogs, and when he sees what you did, you'll regret it. These people are so dramatic." What Mike didn't take seriously was the middle-aged woman who had confronted him during the filming. She had walked right up to him after seeing the fake kick, her eyes burning with anger. "What is your name?" she had demanded. Mike had smirked. "Mike Taylor. Make sure you follow me." The woman had written his name in her phone. "You will regret this," she said calmly before walking away. Now, 3 days after posting the video, Mike's followers had grown by thousands. Most hated him, but some defended him, saying it was just a joke. Mike didn't care either way. His only concern was the numbers going up. His phone rang with an unknown number. Mike answered quickly, hoping it might be a podcast or news site wanting to talk about his viral video. "Hello," he said, trying to sound professional. "Mike Taylor." The voice was deep, with a British accent that sounded strangely familiar. "Yes, this is Mike," he replied, sitting up straighter even though the caller couldn't see him. "This is Jason Statham." Mike laughed. This had to be a joke. "Yeah, right. And I'm Brad Pitt." "I understand your disbelief," the voice continued, "but I assure you, this is Jason Statham. The woman in your video who confronted you is my aunt. She volunteers at animal shelters across the city." Mike's laughter died in his throat. The voice did sound exactly like the famous action star. "I've got your address from her. I'll be there in 20 minutes. We need to have a serious conversation about that dog video." The line went dead. Mike stared at his phone, his heart suddenly pounding. This couldn't be real. Why would Jason Statham, of all people, call him about a stupid prank video? But what if it was real? Mike looked around his messy apartment, suddenly feeling very small and very scared. 20 minutes. If this was actually happening, Jason Statham would be at his door in 20 minutes. Mike paced back and forth in his small apartment, checking his phone every few seconds. 15 minutes had passed since the call. His hands felt cold and sweaty at the same time. "This can't be happening," he muttered to himself. "It has to be a prank." Dave walked out of his bedroom and noticed Mike's nervous face. "What's wrong with you? You look like you've seen a ghost." Mike swallowed hard. "I just got a phone call. Someone claiming to be Jason Statham said he's coming here. Right now. About the dog video." Dave laughed so loud he had to hold his stomach. Jason Statham, the action movie star. "Come on, man. One of your friends is messing with you." It sounded just like him, Mike insisted. The caller said that woman in the video, the one who asked for my name, is his aunt. Dave shook his head, still grinning. No way. Famous people don't call nobodies like us. They have people who handle that stuff for them. Just as Dave finished speaking, the building's security buzzer rang. Both men froze. Mike walked slowly to the intercom and pressed the button to see the video feed from the front entrance. The grainy black and white image showed a fit, bald man wearing a black jacket. He stood looking directly at the camera, his face serious and unmistakable. "Holy shit," Dave whispered, looking over Mike's shoulder. "That's actually him." Mike's finger trembled as he pressed the talk button. "Hello. Mike Taylor. Buzz me up, please." The same deep British voice from the phone call came through the speaker. Mike pressed the button to unlock the building's front door. He turned to Dave with wide, frightened eyes. "What do I do?" Dave was already backing toward his bedroom. "You're on your own, man. I did not sign up for an angry Jason Statham in our living room. I'll be in my room with the door locked." Mike watched helplessly as his roommate disappeared and closed his door. The sound of the lock clicking felt like a death sentence. 3 minutes later, there was a firm knock on the apartment door. Mike took a deep breath and opened it. Jason Statham stood in the hallway, looking exactly like he did in his movies, but somehow more intimidating in real life. He was shorter than Mike expected, but had an energy that made him seem larger. His eyes were cold as they studied Mike's face. "Mr. Taylor," Statham said, not as a question but as a statement. Mike nodded, unable to speak. His throat felt like it was filled with sand. "May I come in?" Statham asked. Though it didn't sound like a request, Mike could refuse. Mike stepped back, opening the door wider. Statham walked in, his movements smooth and controlled. He looked around the apartment briefly, taking in the pizza boxes on the coffee table and the video game controller on the couch. "Would you like something to drink?" Mike asked, trying to sound normal and failing completely. Statham shook his head. "No, thank you. This isn't a social visit." Mike pointed to the couch. "Do you want to sit down?" "I'd prefer to stand," Statham replied. He took his phone from his pocket and opened a video. "I want to show you something." He held the phone out to Mike, who took it with shaking hands. On the screen was a video of a small dog with a bandaged leg, whimpering as a vet examined it. "This dog was kicked yesterday by a teenager who said he was inspired by your video," Statham said, his voice calm but with an edge that made Mike's skin crawl. "There have been 2 other similar incidents reported." Mike felt sick. "But my video was fake. I didn't actually kick the dog." "Intent and impact are different things," Statham said. "You've started something ugly, and now you're going to help fix it." Mike looked into the action star's eyes and knew his life was about to change completely. Mike sat down on the couch without being invited. His legs felt too weak to keep standing. Jason Statham remained standing, looking down at him with those intense eyes that had stared down movie villains in dozens of films. "What do you mean, fix it?" Mike asked, his voice small. Statham put his phone back in his pocket. "My Aunt Frances runs an animal shelter on the east side of the city. For the next 30 days, you will volunteer there every day. 8 hours each day. No excuses." Mike blinked rapidly. "But I have other things to do. I need to make videos. I have plans with friends." "Cancel them," Statham cut him off. "This is not a negotiation. You will work at the shelter, and you will make a public apology video explaining that your prank was fake, but had real consequences." "And if I say no?" Mike asked, immediately regretting the question when he saw Statham's expression change. "I strongly suggest you don't find out," Statham said quietly. The room felt suddenly smaller. Mike nodded quickly. "Okay, I understand. I'll do it." "Good," Statham said. "You start tomorrow at 8 in the morning. My aunt will be expecting you." He pulled out a small notebook and wrote down an address, tearing off the page and placing it on the coffee table. As he did, Dave's bedroom door opened a crack. Both Mike and Statham turned to look. "Sorry," Dave said, his face half hidden behind the door. "Just checking if everything is okay." "Your friend is fine," Statham told him. "We're having a productive conversation about responsibility." Dave nodded and closed the door again. Mike would have found it funny if he wasn't so scared. Statham turned back to Mike. "One more thing. Take down that video now, while I'm here." Mike didn't argue. He grabbed his phone and opened his social media account. The video had reached over 200,000 views by now, but Mike didn't care anymore. He deleted it as Statham watched. "I'm sorry," Mike said, surprised to find he actually meant it. "I didn't think about how it might make people act." "That's the problem with most of these pranks," Statham said. "No one thinks about the ripple effects." Mike expected Statham to leave then, but instead, the actor sat down in the chair across from the couch. His posture relaxed slightly. "Why dogs?" Statham asked. "Of all the things you could pretend to do for attention, why choose something cruel to an animal?" Mike hadn't expected this question. He thought about it, trying to understand his own thinking. "I guess because dogs get big reactions from people," he said slowly. "Everyone loves dogs, so pretending to hurt one gets strong emotions. I thought those reactions would get me views." He looked down at his hands. "It sounds really stupid when I say it out loud." "At least you can see that now," Statham said. "Some people never get that far." For the first time, Mike looked at Statham, not as a scary famous person who had invaded his apartment, but as someone who actually cared about something important. It made Mike feel even worse about what he had done. "Does your aunt know you're here?" Mike asked. Statham's mouth twitched in what might have been the start of a smile. "No, and she won't know. To her, you're just another volunteer sent by the court for community service. Keep it that way." He stood up, straightening his jacket. 8 o'clock tomorrow. Don't be late." Mike nodded. "I'll be there." Statham walked to the door, but paused before leaving. "Everyone makes mistakes, Mike. What matters is what you do next." With that, he was gone, leaving Mike sitting alone in his apartment, wondering how a stupid prank video had brought an action movie star to his door and changed the course of his life in less than 20 minutes. The next morning, Mike stood outside a brick building with a sign that read "Second Chance Animal Shelter." His head hurt from a restless night, and he still couldn't believe Jason Statham had been in his apartment. Part of him had hoped it was all a strange dream. Mike pushed open the door and stepped inside. The smell hit him first, a mix of cleaning products and wet dog. A woman in her 60s looked up from behind a desk. She had short gray hair and kind eyes behind red glasses. "Can I help you?" she asked. "I'm Mike Taylor. I'm supposed to start volunteering today." Recognition flashed in her eyes, but not the kind Mike was used to from his videos. This was colder. "Ah, yes, the court-ordered service. I'm Francis." She stood up and beckoned him to follow. "My nephew informed me you'd be coming." Mike's eyes widened. "Your nephew? You mean?" "I mean the court," Francis said firmly, giving him a look that told him to keep quiet. "Let me show you around." She led him through the shelter, explaining the daily routines. Dogs barked from kennels lining both sides of a long hallway. Some jumped excitedly. Others cowered in corners. "Your first job is to clean the kennels," Francis said, handing him gloves, a bucket, and cleaning supplies. "Every single one needs to be spotless. After that, you'll help with feeding." Mike looked at the row of kennels. There had to be at least 30 of them. "All of them?" he asked. "All of them," Francis confirmed. "And tomorrow you'll do it again." Mike put on the gloves with a sigh. As Francis walked away, she added, "The small brown one at the end. That's Buddy. He was kicked by a teenager who said he saw it in a video." Funny coincidence, isn't it? Mike felt his stomach turn as he looked down the row to where a small dog watched him with fearful eyes. He swallowed hard and got to work. The day was longer and harder than any Mike had experienced before. By the time 8 hours had passed, his back ached, his hands were sore despite the gloves, and he smelled like dog food and cleaning products. "See you tomorrow," Francis said as he was leaving. It wasn't a question. Mike nodded. "I'll be here." 2 weeks into his mandatory volunteering, Mike had settled into a routine. He still cleaned kennels, but Francis had also taught him to help with feeding, walking dogs, and basic care. His hands were calloused now, and he had stopped caring about how he smelled when he went home. Something else had changed too. The dogs had begun to recognize him. When he walked in each morning, many of them wagged their tails and jumped against their kennel doors, excited to see him. Today, Frances was waiting for him with a different task. "I need help with a new arrival," she said. "He's going to need special attention." She led Mike to an isolation room away from the main kennels. Inside was a pit bull with patchy fur and a missing back leg. The dog looked up at them with sad eyes. "This is Champion," Francis said. "He was rescued from a fighting ring. The vet had to amputate his leg, and he's still recovering. He needs to be hand-fed and taken out very gently for short walks." Mike knelt down slowly, letting Champion sniff his hand before carefully petting his head. The dog flinched at first, but then leaned into his touch. "Why Champion?" Mike asked. "Because he survived when others didn't," Francis replied. "He's a champion just for being alive." Mike felt something catch in his throat. "I'll take care of him," he promised. Over the next few days, Mike spent extra time with Champion. He came early and stayed late, sitting in the isolation room, talking softly to the three-legged dog until he felt comfortable enough to eat from Mike's hand. One evening, Frances found Mike asleep on the floor of Champion's room, the dog curled up against his chest. "You know," she said when Mike woke up, "community service usually involves just doing the minimum required hours." Mike sat up, careful not to disturb Champion. "I know, but he needs the company." Frances studied him for a long moment. "Maybe you both do." The 4th week of Mike's service, Frances asked him to help with Adoption Day. The shelter was bustling with families looking for pets, and Mike found himself explaining dogs' personalities and needs to potential adopters. "This is Rio," he told a young couple, introducing them to a friendly golden retriever mix. "He loves playing fetch and knows basic commands. He'd be perfect for an active family." Frances watched from across the room as Mike matched dog after dog with good homes. That afternoon, 7 dogs were adopted, a record for the shelter. "You're good at this," Frances said when the last family had left. "You understand which dogs fit with which people." Mike shrugged. "I just pay attention to what the dogs tell me." Frances smiled. "That's exactly right." Later that day, Mike checked his phone for the first time in hours. Since deleting the dog-kicking video, he had stopped posting on social media. His follower count had dropped, and he found he didn't care. "I need to make a new video," he told Frances as they were closing the shelter. She looked concerned. "What kind of video?" "An apology," Mike said, "and something about the shelter. People should see what happens to dogs that get hurt because of stupid pranks." Frances nodded. "That's a good idea. But no filming inside without permission from the adopters." The next day, Mike brought his camera. With Frances supervising, he filmed a short video explaining how his fake prank had led to real harm. He introduced Champion and talked about the other dogs at the shelter. "What I did was stupid and irresponsible," he said directly to the camera. "I'm asking everyone who saw my previous video to visit their local animal shelter instead of creating or watching harmful content. These animals deserve better from us." Mike's 30 days of mandatory service ended on a Friday. He stood in Frances's office, unsure what to say. "So," he began, "today is my last day." Frances looked up from her paperwork. "According to the court, yes." Mike shifted his weight from one foot to the other. "I was thinking, if it's okay with you, I'd like to keep volunteering. Maybe not 8 hours every day, but a few days a week." Frances took off her glasses. "Are you serious?" "Yes," Mike said. "I like being here, and Champion still needs special care." Frances smiled, the first real smile Mike had seen from her. "We could use the help, especially someone who knows the routine." That evening, as Mike was leaving, a black car pulled up outside the shelter. The window rolled down, revealing Jason Statham in the driver's seat. "Get in," he said. Mike hesitated only briefly before opening the passenger door and sliding in. "Your 30 days are up," Statham said as he pulled away from the curb. "I know," Mike replied. "I asked to keep volunteering." Statham nodded, the hint of approval in his expression. "Frances told me. She also showed me your apology video. It's getting a lot of views." Mike hadn't checked his social media in days. "Is it?" "Over 1 million, Statham confirmed. "And donations to the shelter have increased. You did good." Mike felt a strange sense of pride, different from the feeling he got when his prank videos went viral. This felt real and meaningful. "There's something else," Statham said. "I'm working on a documentary about animal rescue. My production company could use someone who understands social media to help spread the word." Mike stared at him. "Are you offering me a job?" "I'm offering you an opportunity," Statham corrected. "What you make of it is up to you." 6 months later, Mike sat at a desk in a small office above the Second Chance Animal Shelter. Around him were posters for the upcoming documentary Champions, the fight for second chances. His name was listed as social media director. His phone buzzed with a message from the documentary team. The trailer had just been released online, featuring Champion's story alongside other rescue animals. Mike had insisted that the 3-legged pit bull be the face of the campaign. Champion himself lay at Mike's feet, his adoption papers signed by Mike 3 months earlier. The dog had become his constant companion, coming to work with him every day. A knock on the door made them both look up. Frances stood there with a visitor. "Jason Statham. How's it going?" Statham asked, looking around the office at the campaign materials Mike had created. "Really well," Mike replied. "The trailer has 50,000 views already, and we've partnered with 15 shelters across the country." Statham nodded approvingly. "I have news. The documentary has been accepted at the film festival. We premiere next month." Mike couldn't hold back his smile. "That's amazing." "You'll need to be there," Statham continued. "You're part of the story now." After they left, Mike sat back in his chair, Champion resting his head on his lap. He thought about how different his life was from a year ago, when all he cared about was getting views and followers. Now he had purpose. His phone buzzed again. It was a message from a teenage fan. "Your video about Champion made me volunteer at my local shelter. Thank you." Mike read it twice, then looked down at Champion. "Hear that, buddy? We're making a difference." 3 years later, Mike stood at a podium, accepting an award for his nonprofit organization, Champions for Change, which had grown from his work with the documentary. The organization now funded rescue efforts for abused animals and education programs to prevent animal cruelty. In the audience, Frances sat next to Jason Statham, both applauding as Mike gave his speech. 3 years ago, I made a terrible joke that could have ended very differently," Mike told the crowd. "I was lucky enough to get a second chance, just like the animals we help every day." He looked down at Champion, who sat patiently by his side wearing a service dog vest. After his own recovery, Champion had been trained to work with children who had experienced trauma, showing them that scars could heal and life could get better. "One phone call changed everything for me," Mike continued. "It taught me that our actions, even ones we think are small or just jokes, can have huge impacts on others, for better or worse." After the ceremony, Jason Statham approached Mike with a handshake that turned into a brief hug. "Did you ever imagine this would be the result of scaring a prankster in his apartment?" Mike asked. Statham smiled, a rare sight even now. "I hoped for something good. You exceeded expectations." Frances joined them, proudly showing photos on her phone of the expanded Second Chance shelter, which had recently opened a new wing funded by Mike's organization. Later that night, Mike sat on his couch at home, Champion curled up beside him. On the wall hung a framed screenshot of the prank video that had started everything, a reminder of where he had been and how far he had come. His phone rang with a familiar number. It was Statham, calling about their next project, a nationwide campaign to strengthen animal cruelty laws. As Mike answered, he scratched behind Champion's ears, grateful for the worst mistake he had ever made and the unexpected second chance it had given him.